This is Lightning Power Lunch, presented by Reef Rum on the Lightning Audio Network with Dave Mishkin and Greg Linnelli.
These guys they're playing so well and responsible, and it's just really, honestly, it's really comfortable coaching these guys right now. And we're not the perfect team by any means, but they know how to self-correct. They know when they're stepping out of line a little, and they're just consistent play, and they're not shooting themselves in the foot. And that was a big part of why we were not having success early in the year. And then when we do break down and breakaway happens, the big cat's there to stop it. And so it's just a huge momentum swing for us on the bench. But I've told you for the last 2 weeks, we need to do this just to compete in this division. And I don't think I've ever seen our division, this tight. Actually, any division in this league as tight as, the Atlantic has been, with so many teams that are competing for a playoff spot.
Where would they be without this streak? My goodness. Beating up on the Jets last night, 4-1. Vasi was great. We'll get into the Yanni Gourde line again, being tasked with slowing down the other team's top line. Did a pretty good job. And all things in between. It is Power Lunch on Lightning Radio. Greg Linnelli with you, along with my partner, Dave Mishkin. Partner, we've got a very special guest coming up, and the reason is because we've got that game coming up on Sunday, the outdoor game, and who better to talk about all things weather-related, and maybe we'll ask Denis Phillips some hockey questions as he's with us right now. And we do have his name spelled correctly on the screen. That is so we're already one up on his boat. But chief meteorologist for ABC here in Tampa, Denis Phillips, is with us here on Power Lunch. Denis, first off, it's great to be with you. I know usually around hurricane season is when everybody's tuning into their TVs. They want to know what's going on. This has to be very unique in your coverage, and I've got to think probably in some weird way just as exciting.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
Because, we've been talking for how many years now have we thought outdoor hockey, Tampa, there's no way. The ice is going to melt. It's going to be last week it was 85 degrees.
Yeah.
So the ice is going to melt. There's just no way this will work. And somehow, and I was texting Steve Griggs a couple of days ago, he's been asking for the forecast for the last couple of weeks. And I said, the hockey gods are on your side, because literally this is going to be the coldest night in 20 years in the Bay Area at puck drop. What are the odds? Unbelievable.
So we're hearing snow, the S word. What are we looking at here?
No, not for the game.
Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow night between maybe 11 o'clock at night and 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. You guys, have you been to Buffalo when there's lake effect snows going on?
Yes.
Okay, so not to that extent.
We're not going to see that.
Although, you know what? If the Hurricanes had a game this weekend, I don't know if they do or not, but there's going to be a blizzard in Charlotte. And
they play in Raleigh, but it's interesting you say that, Denis, because there's one other game on Sunday. It is LA Kings at Carolina Hurricanes. Kings already just had a game canceled in Columbus because of snow.
Yeah,
but that is in Raleigh. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Yeah, that might not happen. I think it's going to be Saturday night and Sunday. They're getting a lot of wind too. So, but for our area, again, those lake effect snows up north, it's the exact same thing that we're getting down here, obviously to a lesser degree, but you got the coldest air we've had ever recorded in some ways coming up over those warmer waters of the Gulf. And there's going to be some flurries out there. And I'm getting texts from people, I don't even know who they are. And they're saying, hey, so where do I go to bring my kids to see the snow? And I will tell you, I had a trip planned to Orlando this weekend. I don't have tickets to the game. They were a tough find. And so we were going to go to Orlando and watch the game in Orlando. We canceled our Orlando trip. The kids wanted to go chase snowflakes. So the cat's behind me. Pasco County and Hernando and Citrus, and there's going to be some flurries out there, and the timing between maybe midnight and 6 a.m.
What's interesting too, my wife and kids, they have a cheer competition in Orlando, and a little bit of the debate was, what are the roads going to be looking like? If they're going to get wet, if they're going to be slick, because as we know, I-4, people driving, man, is that nuts? What I feel like, if there was a bigger issue, it would be, are we going to get precipitation? Is there going to be the roads freezing, ice? What do you make of all that, Dennis?
And people coming in, like your family's going the other direction, but people are going to be coming into Tampa for the game too.
Look, my cats are battling behind me.
They're trying to stay warm.
They just want an appearance on Power Lunch. Let's be honest.
So, yeah, it's funny. No, there will be no problems with ice or snow on the roads. One of the models, as crazy as it is, one of the models is bringing an inch of snow into the grassy areas on Saturday night, Sunday morning. I just don't see that even being possible. The last time we had snow that actually stuck on the ground in Tampa was 1977. So yes, it can happen. But I think realistically, if you're lucky enough to see a 5-minute snow flurry, that's probably, you'll be one of the fortunate ones. I don't think it'll be widespread. There's not going to be issues on the roads, but man, it is going to be cold. And Sunday morning, we're going to have single-digit wind chills. Wow. So easily the coldest weather we have seen here since 2010.
You were telling us, Dennis, that you were on the pregame show, which we actually saw you on our monitor. You were on the pregame show on the Lightning's telecast on Scripps yesterday, and one of the things that you were asked, which you hadn't thought about, but you were glad you were asked, so we'll ask you as well, is the wind effect for the players on the ice. You just mentioned wind chill. Like, how much wind is there going to be at game time, and what effect would that have, like, in a stadium where we're at the bottom of the stadium, basically, they're on the ice?
Well, if you're in the 300 levels, you better layer, because it is going to be cold. But it's an interesting question. And so Ray J is situated north to south, right? So that ice, the rink, will be north to south. And we will have a northerly wind. If it were Saturday night, they'd be skating from south to north in 30, 35 mile an hour winds. And I'm sure that's not easy. And then on the flip side, if you're going in the other direction, you're going to have that tailwind at 30 to 35 mile an hour. By puck drop on Sunday night, the winds are going to come down a lot. In fact, probably no more than about 10 miles an hour. So I don't think it'll be a huge issue. I mean, maybe some gusts at times, but overall, not a big deal. But I never thought about that until Adam asked me that question last night, because it is a thing. I mean, I'm sure, running into a 20 or 30 knot wind is tough. And I'm sure skating's every bit as tough, if not tougher.
We already have some of our audience chiming in on the side. And Ranger says, Dennis, can you provide live updates for a snow watch?
Oh yeah, I'll be doing it. I will. If I see snowflakes, trust me, me and my daughter and my son Jake, we are going to be out there doing live hits all night long, because they don't let me chase hurricanes anymore. I'm the old guy. Now, I used to be out in the day. I'd go out and chase the hurricanes and stand out there holding on to a palm tree and whatnot. And now all I got is chasing some snowflakes from time to time if we get a little bit of snow. And again, it's a lot of talk. It's a lot of fun. But the cold weather is not a joking thing. I mean, it's going to be extreme. But for the snow, yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of saying, I'd love to see some. There's a lot of Floridians. A lot of people in our area have never seen snow in their life. So this is kind of an unusual thing and kind of a fun thing, honestly.
So we're getting the cold weather. But as you mentioned, last Sunday was quite the opposite. With this tent that they built, had we gotten a different forecast, like, what would have been the red flag elements of a forecast, understanding they were protecting the ice until day of game? Like, what would have caused you concern even as the ice had been protected until the morning of the game?
It'd be rain. I mean, there's nothing you can do about the rain. Look, I mean, it's interesting, and I've learned a lot about this whole process as well. The fact that the ice is thicker with this game than most of them for that very reason, because if they had extreme heat, I think the ice was close to 2.5 inches with this particular game, and as opposed to typically an inch or inch and a quarter or whatever it is. And so it would take longer for it to melt. But what I found interesting is it isn't. So if it rained, that's the worst case scenario. They really believe with that tent up until an hour or two, a couple hours before the game starts, that would control most of the melting. But what I found interesting was it's not just the temperature, it's the dew point. Because in Florida, we've got a high humidity, right? We all know it in the summertime. The higher the dew point, the more likely frost would form on the ice, and that would have an impact on the puck. So it isn't just about whether the ice melts. It would be whether or not the ice melts or whether frost forms on the ice. But it's all a moot point because the temperature is going to be in the 30s. I mean, it will be in the 30s for that game. So it's just like living up north. You know, you have ice on the road. If you're in the mid to upper 30s, that ice takes a long time to melt. So it's just not going to be a thing. Can't believe we're saying it, but the weather will not be a factor at all for melting ice.
You kind of pinch yourself a little bit. This is happening here in Tampa. I mean, you know, reporters live for certain stories. Meteorologists, I'm sure, same way. But I mean, something like this, is this, you know, kind of an out-of-body experience a little bit?
It's crazy. I mean, I'm like everybody else. When I heard this game was going to be in Florida, I think we did the story on the newscast, and I yelled in the back, "Are you crazy?" Because there's just no way. I mean, we have too much warm weather. So that's why I was saying earlier on, the odds of us not just being cold, but the coldest night in 20 years is the one night the Bolts have picked to play this outdoor game. I mean, the hockey gods are clearly Tampa fans.
Last one for me, Dennis. At what point does this thing in your mind get locked in? It sounds like it is locked in. But at what point are you like 10-day forecast, 7-day forecast? Like at what point you're like, this is happening?
Yeah, I mean, normally temperatures are much easier to predict than whether it's going to rain or snow. I mean, by the middle of last week, we knew it was going to be cold. I don't think we knew it was going to be this cold. I mean, I think we were realistically thinking more like upper 40s, you know, puck drop, as opposed to low 40s and upper 30s. But ultimately, this forecast will not change. I mean, it is locked in. What we have, we will have temperatures in the low to mid 40s at puck drop. It'll drop into the upper 30s to around 40 by the second or third period. The winds will be about 10, maybe 15. And there's going to be a little bit of snow out there on Saturday night, Sunday morning. So it's crazy to say it, but it could not have gone any better.
Well, now we just wait and we watch, dress warmly, correct? Yeah, you know, I think that's all we can do. Well, Denis, thank you for coming on. I'm sure you're going to be the most watched man here in Tampa for at least the next couple of days, but we appreciate you hopping on for an update.
My
Great to see
pleasure.
you,
And
Denis.
good luck, guys. I know you're going to be working it, so have a great time and go Bolts.
Yeah, Bolts, no doubt about it. Thank you, Denis. Appreciate it. All right, there he goes. Denis Phillips, ABC chief meteorologist. Who would have thought that, partner?
I know. You know, they say in hockey, the equipment managers are the hardest working people in the sport. And look, there's a lot of truth to that because there's a lot of hockey gear. They have to make sure that it's hung. Like we get into a city, whether it's the middle of the day or the middle of the night, they're going straight to the rink to hang everything. And if we just had a game, like they got to clean all the stuff, gear. Doesn't matter. Like they are just working constantly, right? I'm not sure that there is a harder working profession than being a meteorologist in one, and not just Florida, but you know, Florida is certainly one of the states where they have these hurricanes, which are, you know, it's like the stalking turtle is what we hear, right? Like it's not just in and out, right? And I mean, Dennis and Paul Delgado and you know the great meteorologists we have here, like they basically don't sleep when these storms come in. If they get a little bit of sleep, and they're not just not sleeping, they are doing work. They are like reacting in time. They are talking on the air. I mean, you and I know that it's not easy to talk on the air when you have little sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's done it so many times. Like anytime that there is danger in terms of impacts from a storm, like the meteorologists we have in this market, like they basically they set up a little cot somewhere in the studio. They catch a cat nap here and there. Sometimes I think they work for like 72 hours straight. It's crazy. I couldn't do it.
There's also a rush.
They're a trusted voice. Yeah, you're right about that. But I think that like the familiarity, it's a trusted voice for a lot of the people who are legitimately scared, right? Like we've had some bad storms in recent years. People have been affected, and it matters, you know, when somebody that you've come to know and trust is giving you the news.
It's bigger than the game in many ways, this weather, but the fact that we're able to have an outdoor game and the conditions look
Thank you for bringing it back to Sunday.
that actually looks to be perfect is pretty incredible. I don't know how many more of these down the road we'll have, but certainly you can learn from some of these things, and probably having it end of January, early February, that helps.
And you know what he said is the rain is the biggest issue. Now he also said dew point, right? So I mean, other areas don't maybe have the humidity that we have here, but you know there have been outdoor games that have been affected by rain before. So that is not something new for the league to contend with. And you always have an escape hatch if you need to. You can push the game a day. I mean, I think that's a last resort situation. I don't think any game has been pushed a full day, but we talked about that Pittsburgh game in 2011, New Year's Day, where they moved it from the afternoon to the evening. We've seen that a few times. Actually, we had Winnipeg in. We can talk about that game, but you know, they had an outdoor game 9 or 10 years ago, and they had to push it from the afternoon. It was too warm in Winnipeg. They played it at night.
Yeah.
That was not rain related. That was more like the sun coming down on the field. But look, we don't have any concerns as far as the conditions on the ice Sunday. But if you are attending the game and you are planning on coming early, there are a lot of events that are starting, you know, shortly after noon. You're going to be outside for a long time. So be prepared.
Be prepared. I know we had somebody ask us a few times down at the last call, do we know the schedule for the Lightning in terms of when they're going to have an opportunity to check out the ice at Raymond James Stadium?
Well,
like, are they going to practice?
And Bruins are having a practice on Saturday, but the tent is staying on, so nobody can see it unless they're going to allow somebody with a camera inside.
Yeah.
During the day on Sunday, they're taking the tent apart.
I think it's 6 hours.
But there are other events that are happening, like in the lots, right?
Sure.
Outside Ray J.
Yep. A lot of things will be happening. So should be fun. If you're going down, let us know at Bolts Radio. Game last night, another win for Tampa Bay, another goal for Darren Radish.
Yes.
Another good game for Andrei Vasilevsky. A lot of things in between. Saw a little bit of pushback from Winnipeg, but you can see how they're struggling a bit this year. The first line's good. I know you had mentioned their energy line looked pretty good last night too, but the Lightning, you know, look, the way they're defending for the most part, they're really giving themselves an opportunity to win or get points in all of these games, and that continued last night, Parter.
So there were a couple of key elements to the win, and I would say the biggest element to the win was Gord's line against Scheifele's line. Because, I mean, Scheifele's line got the goal that the Jets scored. Connor scored. And Gord's line was out on the ice when that goal was scored. So they did score against Gord's line. But Gord's line did not finish minus. Gord's line was out on the ice for the Radish goal. Gord was out on the ice on the 6-on-5 delayed penalty goal, which he scored. And then, of course, Gord and Gergensons were out on the ice for the empty net goal. So Holmberg finished even. Gord and Gergensons finished plus. Given their assignment, that is not insignificant. There is no question after watching the Winnipeg Jets, their two best offensive players by a wide margin at forward are Mike Scheifele and Kyle Connor. No question.
Yeah.
Every time they come over the boards, they are a threat. And the Lightning, I thought, did a magnificent job of keeping that line in check. What's the old expression? You're not going to stop. We just hope to contain them. I mean, they basically contained them. They forced Scheifele, Connor, and it was Velarde in the first two periods. Then they swapped Iafallo onto that line in the third period. They basically forced that line, even on shifts where they got the puck in the offensive zone, to spend part of that shift in the defensive zone. And there were some sequences where they basically spent the whole shift in the defensive zone. So the Gord line did to the Scheifele line what the Gord line has done to a lot of opposition top lines, and I will include Radish and Moser in there as well because it was a 5-man unit. And the Lightning, as the home team, got the benefit of the last change in many instances. Now, there were a couple of instances when, like, the Lightning iced the puck. They didn't have the Gord line out there. Scott Arniel sends out the Scheifele line for the ozone faceoff. Lightning navigated through that. But most of the time, you had the Scheifele line with DeMello and Morrissey against the Gord line with Moser and Radish. And the Lightning decisively won that matchup. Doesn't mean that, Scheifele's line finished, -3. In fact, I think they finished even. But they are the line that is going to account for offense for Winnipeg. So I heard J.P. Peterson after the game on the last call saying, like, you contain that line and Winnipeg doesn't have much. And that is fair. That is fair. We talked about their goal production on the show yesterday. Scheifele and Connor are in the 20s. Velarde's in double digits. Morrissey has 10. Nobody else is in double digits. You shut down the Scheifele line, Winnipeg is going to have a hard time winning the game unless Hellebuck keeps the other team to like 1 or 0. So that is why what Gord's line, I keep saying Gord's line because he's the center, but it's Gord, Girgensons, and Holmberg. They had an outstanding game last night. And I think, they frustrated the Scheifele line. Brian talked about it on the last call because he was at ice level. How many times did Scheifele go to the bench and slam the door shut? Offensive players who are skilled players want to go on offense. They don't want to have to spend a shift chasing in their own end. That is what makes the Gord line so infuriating for the other team's top players to play against when Gord's line can do what they do. I mean, they haven't done it every single game, but most of the time they have. So when you look at how did the Lightning hold the Jets to 1 goal? Well, their best players only had a smidgen of time where they were like dancing around and making a play. Connor finished with 5 shots, but Scheifele had 0, Velarde had 0, and Iafallo had 0. And one of Connor's shots came on the power play. One of his shots went in. That's a really, really good job on the Lightning side to neutralize and contain the best players on Winnipeg. What were the other keys? Understanding that Scheifele's line was not even moderately dangerous. I think that they had a couple of snippets where they got the puck in the offensive zone. You could see, like, they can make plays. Like, you do not want them to have the puck in your end. Scheifele and Connor are phenomenal players, and individually and together, they are fantastic, right? So that didn't happen that much last night. So in the absence of that, who did get a chance for Winnipeg? Well, it was kind of their fourth line with Barron, Cole Koepke, the former Lightning player, and Tanner Pearson. They had some good looks. Pearson almost went short side high in the first period from kind of a tough angle. Barron had a breakaway in the first period. Barron did have a 2-on-1 in the third period, as well as the Lightning defended in the third. They gave up an odd man kind of late in the game. It was 3-1. He hit the crossbar. And Koepke was sniffing around the net. That was probably their most effective line in terms of consistently kind of getting the puck in the offensive zone and making something happen. But, all due respect to Morgan Barron, he's not Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
He's not. So the danger from Winnipeg kind of came from not the most dangerous players. And I thought their middle 6 did very little. The Taves line, they actually switched up the lines anyway. The Taves line and the Lowry line, as much as Phil and I, we really like Adam Lowry as a player. Like, that line didn't really generate much. So the Barron line did, and that's when Vasilevsky came up with some key saves, notably that breakaway on Barron when it was still 0-0. So that was the second key, that Vasilevsky, when he was asked to make a key save, he did. And then the third key was the Lightning scored 3 goals in the first 2 periods. One of them was just Darren Radish winding up and ripping a shot that the goalie simply cannot stop. What did I see? It was 98, 99 miles an hour. I mean, there's nothing fancy about that. He just got the puck at the point, stopped it, wound up, and ripped it. And I mean, yeah, there was a little traffic around him, but Hellebuck gets his stick on it, hits the stick, and goes in the net. It's just too hot to handle, right? He's blasting this thing. It's getting to the net. That's a hard save. The other 2 goals the Lightning scored were the result of really nice playmaking. So in the first goal, Radish and Moser, I guess, had talked about this, and they're like, we may see an opportunity here to draw their defenseman, to one of our defensemen because they're attacking us at their blue line. And so Radish sneaked up in the play. I mean, how many times have we seen Darren Radish up at the opposing blue line for an outlet on the opposite side of the ice? He's a right-handed defenseman. He's on the left side of the ice. So Moser makes a great pass, basically from behind his own net or just at the side, up to the Winnipeg blue line. Radish gets it, carries it in. Jets have a pretty good rookie defenseman in this Elias Salamonson, but he closes on Radish. He leaves his spot on the right side of the ice for Winnipeg, left side of the ice for the Lightning. Dominic James, goes right into that space. Radish gets in the puck. He is a lane to the net, and he snaps it in. 1-0. That's a beautifully executed play. Then, shortly after Connor did score to make it 2-1, Gonçalves draws a penalty, loses his helmet. If you lose your helmet, you have to go to the bench or pick it up and put it back on. And he might have been dinged up a little bit, even though he didn't miss any time. So Vasilevsky sees there's a penalty. He goes to the bench. Kucherov jumps on. Gonçalves goes to the bench. Gord jumps on. So now you got the Gord line without, the James line without Gonçalves. So you got James and Gensel, Kucherov, Gord, and the two defensemen, right? So Radish gives it to Kucherov, and he slips it to the middle. Gord is smart. He goes right to Phil's spot. That's Phil's spot, right at the hash marks. Kucherov gets on the puck, and he just pushes it. And I don't think Hellebuck knew the puck was coming because it kind of slid past him. He reacted a little late. But it was a beautifully executed play and alert for a unit that's not used to being on the ice together. Those 6 players in that situation, but that's the magistry of Kucherov. Doesn't matter. If you get open, which Gord did, he's going to get you the puck. And good on Yanni to score. That was a big goal because it reestablished a 2-goal lead for the Lightning. And I thought the Lightning had a good third period. I mean, the shots were lopsided, 16-4, I think, in favor of Tampa Bay. Some of that was the Lightning were looking to shoot, probably more than they have in some other games. So Hellebuck saw a lot of pucks, and he stopped them, to his credit. But it was really about the possession the Lightning had. And, they kind of leaned on Winnipeg in the third period for much of it. And, they caught a break when Barron hit the crossbar when it was 3-1. The Jets didn't generate much in the 6-on-5. And as we've seen quite frequently during the 16 1-1 stretch for the Lightning, when they have a lead in the third period, they're locking it down. They're getting it across the finish line. And many times they're scoring an empty net goal, which is what happened for Kucherov there. So that's how I saw the game. I thought the Gord line with their matchup assignment was huge. I thought Vasilevsky providing some timely saves at key points, also huge. And then the Lightning needed some goals, and they got it from 2 really well-executed plays and Radish just blasting the puck that turned into an unstoppable shot.
That's turning into a story. We know that. It's, 98 miles per hour that was recorded on that shot. He's getting it on nets. Maybe not a surprise. He's seeing those goal numbers go up. I mean, to me, that's been an incredible revelation. You mentioned the goaltending. Agreed with you 100%. Andre Vasilevsky continues to make the case that he is the best goaltender in the game.
It took a perfect play to beat him. I mean, that Connor deflection is a perfect deflection.
You can do there.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do there. And
nothing you can do if you're Vasilevsky.
That is correct.
Certainly. Connor did get his stick free. Yeah, for the tip.
James goal was interesting. I don't know if you had a chance to hear Chiefs analysis on it, that because he was coming down with so much speed.
It sounded like Hellebuck thought James was going to deke, so he started leaning. Is that
kind of neat? Yeah, so he pushed off on his right a little bit, and because of that, he exposed himself 5-hole a little bit more. And James, I thought, was another player who opened. I mean, he was flying last night.
Yeah.
He opened up my eyes in that game, and he looks like a different player even from a couple of weeks ago. I mean, the puck's coming off his stick. He's playing with pace. He's shooting the puck. He's getting chances.
Is it a little surprising when we see that he has 5 goals?
Yeah.
It seems like he should have more than 5.
But you know what, though? It does speak to the comparisons to Braden Point in his first year. I do. I think that's because what did Braden finish with his first year? I mean, he had 3.
He didn't score any in the first month, and then he missed a couple of months too due to injury. We can look it up and see. He finished very hot though in the last couple of months of the regular season. What Phil said about the James shot which reminded me actually of his shootout goal against Chicago, where he kind of skated down the same. I mean, he didn't have the urgency in the shootout. Like, I mean, he skated, but in this one, he's flying. But the shot went 5-hole on both Soderblom to win the game for the Lightning in the shootout, and 5-hole on Hellebuck. And what Phil said is he shoots it while still in stride. He's like, that's hard to do. And it can surprise, because the goalie is waiting for the player almost to stop skate, like not keep skating.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost you start gliding and then you shoot. And James is shooting in stride. And this came from Phil. It's not me providing this analysis. Phil said that's very difficult to do. Also, goalies are learning, right, about what James can do. So the word may get out. It's like you got to be ready for the 5-hole when he's coming in on the breakaway, and he may shoot it a little before you're expecting. So goalies adjust, right? But good on him. He had a chance. He finished, which it was not happening earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Remember? He would get chances, and goalies were stopping him.
You know, it's funny. Through all of that with James, and we know Points and Gonçalves, how the lines are going to look will be, I think, pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder what that is doing for Julian when he is looking potentially to do something. Is that enough currently what you have to not want to make a major move?
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to talk about addressing
That's
any
what Chris
type of depth.
said. Chris Johnston
He did.
kind of floated that idea
He did.
yesterday. By the way,
He did.
Point had 18 goals in 68 games his rookie year. So he missed 14.
You know,
he got injured right around Christmas, and I think most of those 14 games happened due to that injury.
You know what I would say? I think if James gets to 10, 12 goals, that would be a nice that'd be a nice little feather in his cap.
Thing to remember about Point, he was playing the 1C role down the stretch that year.
He was.
I don't know that Dominic James is going to get that opportunity this year, but he's playing in the top 6 and doing well.
But who would have thought a guy like that, who we just really didn't know about, would come in and potentially get between 10 and 12 goals if that's where he.
And you're looking at goals. Like, had Gonçalves had 2 unreal chances in the third period, and one of them was actually a setup from Gensel. But if that puck goes in, James gets a point on that too, because he passed to Gensel. And the other one, James gave him the puck, and he went kind of outside in, and Hellebuck made a really good save on him. I remembered that was similar to a goal that Gonçalves scored in Philadelphia earlier in the month, where he kind of knifed from the right side in front and shot it in. So, what we saw last night, James had a goal, but he could have had more than 1 point as well. The Lightning missed on some chances.
Fair.
Or Hellebuck made saves, which happens. So, that's part of the game. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show that, like, his work is producing opportunities for either himself or his line mates to make plays. That's what we were seeing from him at the beginning of the year, which is why he caught our eye, and clearly the Lightning's eye too, in terms of being in the NHL. Clearly he caught their eye earlier when he was playing in college.
Yep. It's been pretty fun. We took a couple of other questions that I do want to get here, because this was something to keep an eye on. Mark says, another big win. These injury scares need to stop for the sake of my mental health.
They were weird because Gensel left for a little bit and James left hardly at all, but he did leave, and they were both kind of like, what happened to them? It didn't seem obvious. Kucherov collided with Logan Stanley. Now, look, I'm all for the fans serenading opposing players. Logan Stanley didn't do anything wrong there. The fans were booing him every time he touched the puck. I mean, they just bumped into each other. Now, Stanley was looking to get involved with one other Lightning. Was it Chernak? Yeah, because Chernak hit Cole Perfetti. That was later in the game. But everybody was fine.
Definitely.
So they all ended up coming back.
So did you see this? Steve just sent you a text as well. Apparently, Jeff Vinnick.
Yeah.
Bad leg injury.
Unfortunate.
Fractured.
Yeah. Phil actually told me about that last night. He had heard. So Mr. Vinnick had Was it snowmobiling? Is that what he was doing? An accident?
Yeah, snowmobiling accident resulting in a
he's not going to be able to make the outdoor game, which is...
I'm sure he's bummed because he was the one that was really pushing this, right?
Yeah, very bummed.
Well, he's okay. I mean, that's,
yes.
Man. And I'm sure he'll be watching, he'll be listening, but thinking about Mr. Vinnick because, without him, that wouldn't have been possible for sure. Before we get to some more questions, partner, tonight, please enjoy some Refrom. Smooth, versatile, and now pouring at Benchmark International Arena. Order a Tropical Wave or a Lightning Mule and taste why fans are switching. Refrom is a premium craft Florida local rum built on authenticity, quality, and easy drinkability. Ask for Refrom by name. Go Bolts. Please enjoy responsibly.
Will it be pouring at Ray J on Sunday?
I don't know.
I asked you a very difficult question there. I'm sorry.
I don't. You are a wise man. Let's get to Alan. Terrific team win. Running out of adjectives to describe Vasi. Phil was a kid in a candy store describing all the shooting of the puck done last night by the boys.
Yeah, that was especially true in the third period.
Yeah.
They had opportunities to shoot rather than... Look, I actually wouldn't have minded up 3-1 in the third period to just hold on to the puck and work the clock more. They were looking to shoot. And look, a fourth goal earlier in the third period might have just been, lights out. And Phil certainly loved the shots they took. And some of them did require fairly difficult saves from Hellebuck. The Lightning had a pretty good night in the circle. Now, the Jets as a team are just an okay face-off team, but Taves is one of the best in the NHL. Coming in, he was number 2 behind Giroux, over 60%. And the Lightning held their own. I mean, Taves finished 6-9. He has not had too many games under 50%. I mean, he took 15 of them. The guys who did very well, Cirelli was 7-4. James went 6-6. Paul went 4-3. So they held their own. Actually, this is an outdated stat sheet because they gave the Lightning one extra faceoff win. So one of these guys had an extra faceoff win. So when you're shooting the puck and Hellebuck is making the save and covering, the Lightning many times were staying in possession because they were winning the next faceoff, which was big.
At Bolts Radio, if you want to get involved in the conversation, you certainly can. Chris says, another great win by the boys. Radish just keeps increasing his offseason payday. On 32 Thoughts today, Elliott said he was in town to do a feature on Cooper for Sportsnet it's going to air this weekend. He mentioned they filmed at Coop's house and in his office. He has a selfie with the coaching staff after every playoff win during the Cup runs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We saw Elliott doing something with Dave Randorf.
Yeah.
At least on the TV, right?
Elliott blew into town.
Didn't even talk to us.
Got his Cooper interview. He's like, yeah, I'll do Block Party. Yeah, I'll come on Script Sports.
Come on, Power Lunch.
Power Lunch?
Let's
What's that?
go.
No, we're kidding. Elliott's joined us before.
No, I'm not kidding. Come on our show. Let's go.
Elliott has to head to Italy, get adjusted to the time zone change, check out the rink, check out those 14 locker rooms that hopefully are done as Chris Johnston, not Chris Johnson, who writes into our show, but Chris Johnston told us yesterday. He's like, it sounds like they got the locker rooms all done. He said when he was there, right as we changed the calendar to 2026, not one of those 14 locker rooms was even started. Isn't that what he said? Mm-hmm. Certainly wasn't finished. So they did a lot of giddy-upping in the last month.
Lucas says, Elliott also said many nice things about Tampa, the stadium, and the Bolts on his podcast today, giving everyone their flowers. Yeah, well, we appreciate that.
Thank you, Elliott.
Logan says Cooch is only 6 points back from McKinnon and 12 behind McDavid. I don't see it unreasonable for him to catch either of them, especially like last night where Cooch got 2 points and McKinnon got 0.
Look, it is possible. Colorado has exhaled, and I'm not shocked, honestly. I mean, they're so far ahead of everyone. They're going to make the playoffs. I think they like home ice. Is it the end of the world if they don't get home ice? I mean, they're probably still going to finish first. I guess I can look at the standings. I had said like Minnesota will probably finish. Minnesota's actually in second right now. Minnesota and Dallas are very close to each other for second and third. So those will be the top 3 teams. But, if you're Colorado, they played at such a high level in the first half. I mean, we looked at their point total. When they got to Florida, they lost to the Panthers, they lost to the Lightning back-to-back in regulation. They had 2 regulation losses at that point. Mm-hmm. Now they have 8 regulation losses. They lost 2 in a row. They're 4-4-2. They still have a 7-point lead on Minnesota with 3 games in hand. So they'll correct. They got swept in a back-to-back set at Ottawa and Montreal. They didn't play well, apparently, in either game. So, when the Avalanche are struggling, that is going to affect Nathan MacKinnon. But the one guy who's not struggling is Brock Nelson. He keeps scoring, even as they're losing. I think he's close to 30 goals this year.
He's a good player.
He's a good player.
He's a very good player.
As it relates to Cooch and the Art Ross, it would be his 3rd in a row. He's going to have to make up some ground. And it's not like MacKinnon goes into neutral or McDavid goes into neutral. It's you have to exceed their point total, right? So we'll see what happens down the stretch. But Cooch has been a machine in 2026. We mentioned the 30-plus points, his 3rd month of doing that.
Yeah.
He finished with 31 because he had 2 points last night. Phil was surprised to hear that he had done it in 4 months. Did you hear that exchange? Or had you left the booth at that point?
No, I heard, because you were talking about Gretzky and Mario.
Yeah. Well,
right?
that is insane. The 2 of them together are insane, and then Gretzky by himself is insane. So again, in case you didn't hear us talk about this, the league produced a note heading into yesterday's game because Kucherov was at 29 points in the month. If he got a point, which he did, it would be the 3rd time in his career that he has had 30 or more points in a month. And they listed all the NHL players in the history of the league that have done it more than once. Most of the players that were included in the list, they only had a handful, were in the 2, 3, 4 range. Right. Phil was 4. Now, Phil was we didn't really pay attention to that, but the stats are the stats. You can go back and look and document, it is documented how many points you had in a certain amount of time, so you can look at it. So if 3rd place was 4, tied for 4th, I think Trottier had it 4 times. I can go back and look at the list. Phil was there at 4. Number 2, Lemieux, 14. 10 more than the next closest guy, right. And he would have had a lot more than 14 if he had stayed healthy. Then Gretzky, 36 months. That's 3 years, Greg. 36 months is 3 years. Gretzky hit 30 or more points in 36 separate months in his career.
Has there been another star player?
That's crazy.
In another sport who is so far ahead of everybody else than Wayne Gretzky in hockey, because he has more assists than the next guy has points, right? And people will say he
played in an era. Yes, that is true. There were a lot of points scored in the 80s, but there were a lot of really, really good players in the 80s who also scored points. None of those players in the 80s, other than Lemieux, were getting 30-plus points more than once or twice in a month, I'm talking about. It's insane. It is just some of these records that Gretzky has are just they're almost beyond belief. And I'm not sure that we have any other, like you mentioned, is there any other sport where you have a player who has put that much of a vice grip on so many different numbers? I mean, look, Gretzky was not known as a goal scorer. And it took Alex Ovechkin 20 years of basically injury-free hockey of some of the best goal production in the league year in, year out. And even then, it took a lot for him to get to the Gretzky record, 894. He's not even in the stratosphere for assists. No. Wayne Gretzky has more assists in his career than any other player has points.
That's what I mean. There's NHL. I don't know if there's another player who dominated their sport as much as Gretzky compared to where the other superstars rank.
But Lemieux is legitimately, many people say Gretzky, Lemieux. Lemieux should be 2.
Yeah,
and Lemieux has the asterisk because of the injuries. It's not going to change his numbers, but you understand his talent would have allowed him to have more points if he hadn't been sidelined with injury, but he's still behind Gretzky. Like, he wouldn't have gotten to some of those Gretzky rerecords. Maybe he would have gotten to 894. Maybe he would have done that.
I think Lemieux, this is just me, again, coming from Pittsburgh, I get it, but the eye test, I think Lemieux stays healthy. He contends and comes close to Gretzky.
Maybe you're right. They were different players, too. Like, Lemieux was bigger and stronger, but, I mean, because of that, he wasn't really a physical player, but I think he took more punishment than...
He could do anything
than Gretzky.
With the puck. I've never seen somebody he was so step ahead of everybody on the ice. Partner, even when he was older and he was breaking down physically, you could just tell, like, just a smart player. Even Phil. Did you catch Phil? Mario.
He was
Mario
like Mario.
Yeah. Mario could do
and then Orr, to me, is 3.
Yeah, for sure.
And Orr is 3 and number 1 on defense.
Yeah.
Keep this in mind, Greg. Bobby Orr played 10 years, and that was it. And the 10th year... Like he had 9 years. And even then, some of those years he was playing on one leg.
That is incredible.
So if Bobby Orr plays 20 years like Gretzky, and Lemieux is a weird because he was healthy and he was out. He retired for 3 years, but like cumulatively, he was in and out of the league over a 20-year span. He probably had, what do you want to say, like a dozen years, maybe more, maybe 12 to 15. Like, if you give Bobby Orr 5 more healthy years, I mean, his numbers would have been untouchable on defense.
I mean, just so that's why whenever they say like the 3 greatest players of all time, they're usually
in hockey,
in hockey, they're usually in that order.
So we're talking about Kucherov being like, is there a better playmaker, basically, than Kucherov in this day and age? No. And even Kuch, who's not he's not his first year in the league. Like, his rookie year was 13-14. He's done this 3 times, 30 plus points in a month. And we're having more scoring now. It's not the 80s, but it's still, that I saw that and I was like, are you kidding me? 36 and 14, and the next guy is at 4? I got to look that up. I'm going to give you all the players that they mentioned.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. I actually think from a points per game perspective, maybe Lemieux has the highest per game. Like, I mean, it's going to be he and Gretzky. I mean, they're almost averaging 2 points per game in their career when you factor in. And Lemieux never played 1,000 games. Everyone in the top 10 in scoring, if you've ever taken a look at it, all-time leaders, Lemieux's the only one who hasn't played 1,000 games.
That's amazing.
Again,
that
that's
he produced
like one
what
of those,
he could produce. And how many of those games under 1,000 did he play really affected by injury?
How many was he healthy?
Yeah.
I
mean, that's part of it. So here's the list. Kucherov is now at 3. So they didn't include 2. So there may be a bunch of guys who are at 2 that aren't on this list. The only other players in NHL history to reach the mark in as many months as 3, which is now Kucherov, Gretzky 36, Lemieux 14. Then you have Brian Trottier at 4, Phil at 4, Yzerman, Jágr, McDavid, and now Kuch at 3. That is it. So, I mean, I don't have the list here for 2, but I mean, just wrap your head around that. In the history of the game, there are only 2 players to do this more than 4 months. And the one guy did it more than twice as many times as the second guy. Although, as we said, had Lemieux stayed healthy, that 14 would have been higher, but that's where it is. So, anyway, congratulations to Kuch. Hopefully he can keep it going. If he keeps like spitting out 30-point months, he has a chance to catch McDavid and McKinnon.
Tim says Kuch is getting more points because the guys are finishing again.
And the power play is contributing too. But good point.
Let's see. I'm going to call him Zebra. Looks like Cooper could finally get his Jack Adams Award this year.
Well, he's going to get votes, but I tell you what, in a season like this where we've had so many teams exceed expectations, other coaches are going to get votes. Now, they may kind of cannibalize each other. We'll see. What Coop said at the beginning of the show, he's like, there's never been a division like as tight as this. What he really means is there's never been a division as tight as this where all of the teams are pushing high point totals. Yeah, there have been tight divisions where it's kind of bunched together, right? And you don't know who's going to emerge. But the top 5 teams in the Atlantic are playing at an incredible points pace. A lot of P's here, percentage-wise. What we were starting to see, though, Greg, we're starting to see a little bit of separation, though, between the top 5 and the bottom 3. Part of the problem for Ottawa is they've kind of been at the bottom, so even though they won 2 in a row, like they've kind of stumbled and bumbled a little bit more than some of the other teams. But Toronto is in a slide. Toronto's lost 4 in a row in regulation.
Yeah.
They're falling off big time. And the Panthers have not done enough to keep pace with these other teams. The point gap right now between Boston Bruins, 5th place team in the Atlantic, and second wild card, they're tied with Montreal, and Florida, first team under the cut line, but also 6th place in the Atlantic. 8 points. Panthers have 2 games in hand, but how many times have we said you got to win those games in hand?
Mm-hmm.
Those games in hand are going to come during a condensed schedule, and the Panthers have still a tough stretch down the stretch with a lot of road games. I mean, they still have played 3 more home games than road games, and how many road games have they just had? Like, didn't they play 9 out of 10 on the road?
Yeah.
I think they're coming home. They play at the Lightning on the 5th, right? But I think they have the next 3. They're playing the 3 teams the Lightning are seeing or have seen. They play Winnipeg, they play Boston, they play Buffalo. Maybe not in that order. All at home. So coming out of the Olympic break, the Panthers are going to have lots of games, and they're still going to have lots of games on the road. So you might say, yeah, they got the games in hand, and yeah, they're going to have to win those. And they're going to have to hope that one of these teams ahead of them in the Atlantic at least starts dropping off.
Well, to your point, JB says, even though playoff spots are still tight in the East, it appears a little separation is starting to happen. If the playoffs started today, is there really any team that scares you in a run to the final?
All teams scare coaches.
They do.
Look back to 2019. Nobody thought Columbus had a shot against the Lightning going into that series foolishly. But the Lightning had swept the season series. They won 62. Columbus kind of got into the second wild card. I mean, it was certainly within the last week of the regular season. You never know what can happen in a playoff series. These are good teams. I'm very curious to see Buffalo. And I mean, the Boston game is going to be a weird game because it's an outdoor game. But like the 2 teams do have 2 games left against each other after Sunday. And let's see what the Bruins are really about down the stretch. I am very curious to see the Buffalo Sabres and see what is going right for them.
This is the longest they've played well in a season over the last decade. I mean, I remember Mike Harrington, who's a longtime Buffalo columnist and reporter. I remember having him on when they would get off to good starts in November. Yeah. And, well, this could be it. This could be it. And, you know, they'd always flame out.
They have not had a legitimate, like, team that was like, ooh, they could make a lot of noise here and maybe they could win the cup since, like, the early to mid Ryan Miller days.
Yeah.
We talked about the first Winter Classic. That Buffalo team was a very good team, 07-08. 05-06, Buffalo upset Ottawa in the second round of the playoffs. Ottawa was the top seed. They beat the Lightning in the first round. Buffalo then went to play Carolina, and I think it was a 7-game series. That was in the Eastern Conference Final. Carolina went on to win the cup. Mm-hmm. Buffalo came close. The next year, Buffalo was the number 1 seed, and Ottawa upset them in the second round. And Ottawa went on to the Stanley Cup Final and lost to Anaheim. Sabres were still good after that, but they weren't number 1 in the conference. They weren't going deep in the playoffs, but they were good. Like, they had Vanek. They had Miller. I mean, just a couple of guys. They had Drury. They had Danny Briere before he went to Philadelphia.
They had some good players.
Players.
Yeah.
Vanek killed the Lightning.
He was.
That was during the time where the Lightning were really struggling, and they ended up drafting Stamkos and Hedman back to back. But once we got on the other side into the 2010s, it started fading. When I read their last playoff appearance was maybe 2011, maybe 2012. I mean, it's been a long time for the Sabres. But this team looks, from afar, looks legit. And it's about time because they have lots of good players. They have 2 defensemen who were picked number 1 overall. They have one of the best shooters in the NHL, Tage Thompson. He's another guy who's at that left circle on a power play, and he can rip it. They have other first-round picks that are on their team. They should be better. Mm-hmm. They just haven't showed it yet. Good for them. This year they are. It just so happens that they're doing it as Boston has really elevated. Montreal is elevated. Detroit is elevated. Detroit scored. You see some of the comebacks last night? Detroit scored 2 sixth attacker goals to get a point. They lost in a shootout. Carolina scored 2 sixth attacker goals to tie it and then won the game in regulation against Utah with 30 seconds left. And Edmonton scored 2 sixth attacker goals to tie the game. They won in overtime against San Jose.
It's a crazy year.
Yeah. But my point about Detroit, Detroit hasn't gone away either. Those are your 5 teams. Lightning, Red Wings, Canadiens, Sabres, Bruins. Any one of those 5 could win the division. I mean, if the Lightning don't keep up this point pace, and still any one of the 5 could miss the playoffs. I mean, it would take the Lightning a pretty precipitous drop here because they're ahead of all those other teams with games in hand. But, there's still a lot of runway left. That's why Coop's like, we got to keep winning. We got to keep getting points.
The one thing this does do, it really doesn't allow you to drop your guard.
Yeah, like Colorado has a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have that slump habit in the beginning of the year, but now that everything's tight and you've done so well to get to a certain point, you almost have to have a level of focus every game, knowing that, look, we can't go into a streak where we're 2-5-2. Or else, we're going to be in 3rd place in the Atlantic.
Right.
Not that that's ever been a big deal for the Lightning, but I think we've never seen this many teams so bunched together that
near the top.
Yeah, and there are going to be some teams. I mean,
yeah.
Are you comfortable saying this? I mean, we're going to have some teams who are above 500 that don't make the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Well,
Which is
we always that would be more than 82 points. The question is, what will be the high point total for the first team to miss the playoffs in the East?
Yeah.
Will they get more than 96? I mean, it's
Good
possible.
point.
I still think 96 is going to be a fairly accurate marker. The difference is going to be, I would be surprised if a team gets in with 91 or 92.
Yeah.
That would be wild card 2, where there's one of these teams drops off and it's like a mad scramble to get that second wild card spot, which is really what teams like Florida and now Philadelphia, those teams need that to happen, or else they're just going to have to go on a crazy pace to get to 96. I mean, let me look at the standings again here. So Florida has played 53 games. They're at 59 points. So, again, playoff pace is 60 points after 50 games. They're not even at 60 points. They played 3 games in this next 10-game segment. Steve is better at projecting math than me. He said Panthers are on a 91-point pace. Now, they're going to have to improve, right? I think that 91 probably is not going to be enough. So you would expect they're going to have to go on a run here. And they're going to maybe need a little bit of help from one of these other teams. The Lightning, at 52 games, have already hit their playoff pace marker for 60 games. Any point that the Lightning get between now and game 60, the next 8 games will be more bonus points. Bruins are on a 100-point pace. They are wild card 2 currently. Putting it another way, the Lightning have 30 games left. To get to 96 points, they need 14 wins. Am I right? What is that? 12 wins. They need 12 wins in their last 30 games to get to 96. which that would be after 82. But that's the position they put themselves in. Obviously, they want to get more than 96.
Sure.
But they are definitely in a much better spot than even some of these other teams in the East that are currently in a playoff position, just based on their point total and points percentage. Anyway, now we get ready for Sunday.
We get ready for Sunday, partner. Should be a lot of fun. I'm going to dress warmly. I know you will as well.
Yes.
And then it'll be fun talking about that game on Monday with you to kind of recap what we saw. But what time do you think you're going to head down there? You going to get down there a little earlier?
Well,
taking the
Phil and
festivities,
I,
or what? No,
probably not. I'm.
You're not dressing up as a pirate.
Self-preservation. No, I'll be I do have a job to do, right? Like calling the game.
You do?
So
come on.
Yes, and the job is actually starting prior to the game because Phil and I are going to do our usual chat with Gary Bettman, which is always a lot of fun. But we do that. We're doing that well in advance of the game. So Steve has show up at this time. So
that'll be fun.
But I'm excited for the atmosphere. I'm excited for kind of taking it all in, and obviously excited for the game. Hopefully it's a good game. I will just point this out. I hope this. I mean, I'm not predicting anything, but I do think most of these outdoor games, the road team wins. The Lightning won as a road team in their other outdoor game. Rangers, as bad a year as they're having, they won against the Panthers. And I'm not sure if there's something to that. Like if the home team is, they are hosting, right? So there's a lot going on. The road team is we're coming into play. I don't know. Hopefully the Lightning are not one of those home teams that loses an outdoor game. We'll see. Bruins have done very well in outdoor games as a franchise. I think they've only lost one outdoor game, and they've played a bunch. So,
partner, it's going to be historic. We're going to be part of it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I will catch you on Sunday, and then back at it again talking about everything we saw Monday noon to 1. Great job, as always.
See you then. Talk to you then.
Yep. Steve Ersnick, thank you. We always appreciate your expertise behind the scenes. Everybody who listened to our show.
Thanks to Denis Phillips, too.
As well, and Denis Phillips for coming on. We appreciate it. I'm Greg Linnelli. You've been listening to Power Lunch on Lightning Radio.